These techs, they come in 8 o'clock in the morning. They don't know if they're going to get home at 8 o'clock at night or if they're going to get home at 11 o'clock at night. Keep working and working. There's no work-life balance for them at all.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We have on the line now the Southern Region Vice President for the Communication Workers of America, Brother Richard Honeycutt. Richard, welcome to the program.
For having me on.
Thanks for taking the time. I know that you're very busy. I know that here locally, 3905, their folks are incredibly busy, so I imagine it is the same or even more intense for you at the Southern Region Vice President level. So your members have been on strike now for about 3 weeks. Can you talk to us about how your members are feeling about the strike after it's been going on for this amount of time?
Well, I'll start off by saying, to that point that is kind of a uncommon thing here in the Southeast. And so to have a strike going on this long, and I'll say the spirits are great. It's amazing what a company can do to motivate people and, through the way they treat them and the various things like that. But our people all throughout the Southeast, all 9 states are really fired up and showing out, for these picket lines and all the mobilization efforts that we have going on. I think we're making a really good showing. We're into our 3rd week now, and the spirit is still there. Everyone's staying strong.
Absolutely. The 3rd week is where in a lot of times the it starts to set in. Like that's when you don't get your paycheck, right, or you don't get your full paycheck from work, and you start collecting the strike pay, which is going to be a little bit less. And I've sensed that going on picket lines, but even as the tone, the kind of mood is more serious. I have seen no interest in we just got to get back to work. Whatever the company offers, right? I mean, even as they are being more serious, it's kind of a little bit less jovial, right? There's still a strong determination to get, what they deserve. And here in our area, CWA Local 3905 told us on the radio when the strike began that they had a participation rate of 99% plus out of the bargaining unit. I mean, that is really astounding when you think about Alabama's a right to work state. You don't even have to be a member of the union here, much less participate in a strike. And they have 99% plus participation. And so far, my understanding is that has been maintained in 3905. Are you seeing similar rates of participation out of locals across the region?
Yeah, we are. And that's one of the things or reasons why it's been so amazing is we are 9 right to work states in the Southeast. And so, you're always kind of wondering, hey, what's going to happen if we get to a point like this? And it's held strong. I mean, we haven't seen much of a decline at all. In fact, I've gotten more reports recently of people who had crossed the picket line that are now coming back over and actually walking the picket line.
Wow.
And so it's a phenomenon, man. It's really amazing, at what we're seeing happening right now.
Yeah, that's really, really great to hear. And what about the community response? I know that here in Huntsville, I've been happy as the president of the Labor Council here to see a lot of support from other unions, from individuals in other unions. The Teamsters obviously not crossing the picket line, working for UPS. What about across the South? How has the community and the rest of the labor movement been responding?
Yeah, that's also been great. Which, any kind of strike or event like this, you've got to have the community support. To really make it effective. And so we, just like what happened in 2019, we're seeing the same exact thing. We've got businesses bringing food to the picket lines. We got other unions coming out, helping walk the picket line. I saw one thing that I did not see last time that was really pretty cool is in Kentucky. A picture was sent to us, and this church has their big billboard, like an electronic billboard, and they're actually have support, the 17,000 workers, on a ULP strike with AT&T. And so wow. The community involvement has been outstanding. It really is. Unions in the South, sometimes that's a hard topic to talk about with our neighbors and friends, but what we've seen so far has been wonderful. I mean,
Right.
we have gotten support from the public. I don't know, part of it is, these our people are working in the neighborhoods. They know these people, and so that's part of it. And then I'm sure there's also quite a few people out there that just have a really dislike for AT&T, and so they probably enjoy that side of it also.
There you go. There you go. Well, outside of the community, we do have politicians, and basically every politician in the South and across the country. Just a few days ago on Labor Day, we're going on and on, right, about how great the American worker is, the Alabama worker, how Alabama doesn't work without its workers. That's what Governor Ivey said on Labor Day, and I'm sure there were very similar things and true things, right? Of course, Alabama does not work without its workers. Without the working class of Alabama, nothing moves, or the working class of Tennessee, right? Of course, this is all true. And so it would stand to reason if you actually believed that, right, as a governor of a state where now probably something like 1,000 CWA members across the state in Alabama and 17,000 across the region are on strike against this big multi-billion-dollar corporation, you would think, oh, I care about the workers. I want to thank them. I'm going to support them as they try to get a better contract. I've not seen any of that so far. So I'm just wondering, are you getting, any back channel support? Is Governor Ivey's office reaching out and say, hey, I can't say this because of my donors, but I support you. I want to let you know, I'll do whatever I can for you. Is that kind of stuff happening?
Yeah, no, we haven't heard from Governor Ivy, but she's more than welcome, to show up at any of the picket lines. I'm sure she'd be welcome to come out there. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we've gotten quite the support, that we should be getting, especially at a national level. And, the quick explanation for that is that, the strike that we're on is an unfair labor practice strike. And so that's going to involve the NLRB. And approximately like a week and a half ago, we also even had a mediator that came in. And once the mediator came in, that, in our opinion, slowed things down. I feel like the company was kind of hiding behind that mediation process. But it also, what it did is it kind of made it tougher for some of the legislators to get actively involved, depending, what their roles are in government and all, because as you know, that's a federal process that they're going through, and they don't want AT&T to come back and try and say, hey, you came out in support, you're trying to manipulate, mediation, things like that. And that's also been the case, with being on the ULP strike. Once again, we're having to go through the board to, defend these charges or process these charges that we have filed against the company. And there's some fear of that. That's what we're seeing, what we're hearing. If it was an economic strike where, we're out because we want better wages, benefits, the things like that we could actually get out and talk about, I feel like the support would be better, but we have been getting support. I'm not going to say, it's nothing, in the various states. We've had, politicians come out, legislators come out and, walk some of the picket lines. We've had some write some statements, so there has been some participation, but unfortunately, like you said earlier, being in the South, we don't always, unions don't always have the support politically that we wish we did have.
Right. You mentioned that your strike is an unfair labor practice strike. And of course, we know what that is, but there are a lot of people in the audience that may not really understand exactly what that means or what the differences are between an unfair labor practice strike and an economic strike. Can you just explain that to our listeners really quick, and then what the specific charges against the company are?
Yeah. So like an economic strike would be one where, we were bargaining and we just couldn't get anywhere. And so we decided to, pull the people out, and based on, we want better wages. We want, whatever it might be, better work rules, et cetera. the ULP strike, or unfair labor practice strike, is geared around charges that were filed with the NLRB. And in the charges that we have, there's three main ones. The first one is that we're not bargaining with the actual decision makers at the bargaining team. That meaning, as we're sitting bargaining, we don't feel that the company has someone there that can actually say yes or no. They have to go back maybe one or two levels to get permission or an okay for something. Whereas our bargaining team, they're sitting there, they can decide. They were sent by, the members, the locals, and our chairs working with them, and we can make a decision on the fly versus them AT&T having to call Texas or whoever it might be. And so that's one of the charges. The other one is we feel, I won't get into this one too deep, but we feel like we had an agreement on a certain aspect of how healthcare would be bargained, and we feel that the company went back on that agreement. And so that's probably one of the main things right now that we're trying to deal with is get back to where we were, or how can we work through that. And so I would say that's the main. And then the third one is surface bargaining. We felt like the company has just been dragging this along for whatever reason. They, make small changes, on the top. It looks like they're trying to bargain, but the substance or the meat of it, we're not seeing it. It's just been like slow motion. And so that's the third charge, or third part of the charge.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. Right. And then just another quick explanation for folks. Another difference between an unfair labor practice strike and an economic strike is that there are more protections for an unfair labor practice strike, right? So if you, even though the National Labor Relations Act protects supposedly your right to strike and says you cannot be fired for striking, the activist judiciary, the Supreme Court came out with this McKay doctrine where if you go on an economic strike, you can theoretically be permanently replaced, quote unquote. And I think you have to have a fancy Harvard education to figure out what the difference is between being permanently replaced and being fired. But, I'll leave that up to our betters, I guess, on the Supreme Court. But on an unfair labor practice, you cannot even be permanently replaced, right? So you do have those sort of job protections that are not there legally in an economic strike, and so that is another important difference. And yeah, it is really frustrating that they're engaging in these sorts of tactics and not even getting to where you could go on an economic strike. And you could say that our disagreements right now are over the economics of the proposal. You're having a strike just to pressure them to bargain in good faith. I know that's a very frustrating position to be in. And, so with that out of the, with that kind of understanding among our listeners, we know right now that the strike is not over any particular wage or working condition proposal, but the union does have, I assume, some priorities that you took with you into negotiations. And presumably, the company has come forward with some of their priorities, what they would like to see. Could you, once CWA is able to stop AT&T from breaking the law and AT&T starts negotiating in good faith, could you tell us what some of the things the negotiating teams on either side are going to be pushing for?
Yeah, of course, there's a wide variety of things, but, some of them are, I guess you would say, kind of the highlights or the main ones. As you said, we're on strike over ULP charges. I think you got that cleared up really well. And so going into bargaining, some of the issues that we were looking for, one is, of course, wage increases. I think, that's a hot issue with everyone. Looking at the cost of living and inflation, how things have gone over this past, couple years or so through COVID and all that, we're looking for, better wages. Also with healthcare, that's something that seems to be rising, and a lot of times the cost of the healthcare outpace the increases in the wages, and so that's another big issue. We also work rules, work home life balance. we have some of our technicians who the company has even came out across the bargaining table and named them as like two classes, and this one group is in the second class. So almost like second class employee is, and that's honestly, that's how they're being treated. They're wire technician titles. And, these techs, they come in 8 o'clock in the morning. They don't know if they're going to get home at 8 o'clock at night or if they're going to get home at 11 o'clock at night. It's a matter of just keep working and working. And so there's no work-life balance for them at all. There's been stories of, they talk about they have to literally raise their kids or, enjoy the T-ball game or the dance or stuff like that through FaceTime. And, there's just needs to be some more rules and guidelines around how these employees should be treated. We've also got, call centers where we have employees who are, held to these strict standards and monitored, like, almost have someone over their back watching what they're doing. And we just try to change some of the rules and take some of the stress off of them in that way. And of course, job protections to, call volumes and some guarantees around the work that they're doing, that it'll still be there, similar to what we have in some other contracts. Then we also have our utility workers or buried service wire guys who really save the money, an incredible amount of money. Instead of using contractors, they started using this buried service wire group back in the 90s, and they've kept using it because they know it saves them money. But at the same time, they're the lowest paid workers that AT&T has, and so there's just no fairness in what this company's doing. They're making billions every year. You can see what the CEO makes and all the higher ups, and it's just like, we are the workers, as you said earlier on Labor Day. Hey, Alabama, it takes the workers to make things go. And all of our members at AT&T are literally the face of AT&T. Someone might call it an issue or whatever, and they're talking to someone directly. Then they show up to their house. That's our technicians. And so this, we are the face of AT&T. And instead of looking at us as a liability, that we cost a salary, we cost this, it'd be nice if the company would turn around and actually look at the employees as an asset, because that's what they are. They are more than just a technician. They are the face of AT&T.
Right. We're coming up about on how much time you said you have. I do have a couple more questions. Are you able to take those, or do you need to head out?
Yeah, I've got a couple more minutes.
Okay. So, really quickly, I was on the picket line yesterday or the day before, and some of the workers were talking about AT&T supposedly talking to the media about having given a final offer, and CWA saying, no, it wasn't the final offer. We're still negotiating. They're still telling us at the table that we're still negotiating. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, sometimes, the company will come and they'll give the last and final best offer. And it's kind of like a take it or leave it. We're done bargaining. We're at an impasse. We're whatever. Here it is. And what they did, we don't consider to be that type of situation. They called it a final offer, but really it was just a ploy to, in our opinion, to get employees to come back to work by posting it. And, employees thinking, oh, so we have a deal now, or this is it, something like that. And that's not the case. And even after it was passed, we met that same day with the company, at 11 o'clock that night. And so, it was even stated that, they knew they still had to bargain with us. So I think it was more of a ploy to maybe show, the public or, even some of the employees that almost like trick them into thinking that we had some kind of deal or that we were done bargaining. And that's not the case. We've been bargaining ever since then. We've been talking with the company. So.
And then finally, AT&T and CWA did reach a tentative agreement in the Western region only a week or so before the strike began. Now, I don't think, and maybe it has been, it's been a few weeks now. I haven't seen anything about it, but I don't think it's been ratified by the members yet. But clearly, AT&T took a different bargaining position in the West than in the South. In the West, they seemed to be willing to bargain and agree to terms that at least the negotiating committee believed was acceptable. And yet here in the South, they aren't even doing the bare minimum that's legally required of them as far as bargaining is concerned. Not even talking about contract terms. We're not even there yet. They're just not even bargaining in good faith. Do you have any idea as to why AT&T is behaving so differently in different parts of the country?
It's really hard to say. And part of that reason is because of the different regions have different issues as far as what they're trying to bargain for. But I will give you a news update. I'm curious to see if AT&T is going to go back and update some of their previous statements, because they were real quick to express how, maybe what's our issue, because they've gotten contracts. I think 3 other contracts or 4 covering X amount of employees, and they actually speak of the tentative agreement that they got in District 9 out in the West. Well, yesterday, that tentative agreement was voted down, almost like 2-1 employees.
Almost what?
Like 2-1.
Wow.
It was voted down big time. And so, they were out touting about how great, all this stuff was. And I mean, the employees just answered it really big. We're not happy with what the company thought was a great deal. And so at this point, they're going to have to go back and, sit down at the bargaining table and rediscuss some of the things. So what they thought they had, they don't actually have.
Well, there you go. That is a news update. Literally just yesterday. Yeah, see this press release from CWA on September 6th. So we'll say, I imagine that adds some increased pressure on them to start negotiating with y'all, because I assume they're not going to want strikes in 2 parts of the country at once, especially when one covers California. I imagine they got a lot of customers out there.
Yeah, they've sent some of their managers after we went on strike, to the Southeast to work. So I guess those guys might be getting a chance to go back home now, see their family.
All right. Well, CWA region, Southern Region Vice President Richard Honeycutt, thank you so much for taking the time and being generous with it. Apologies for going a little long, but best of luck. Keep it up. Thank you for what you're doing, and look forward to hopefully seeing a quick resolution to the strike.
Thank you, Jacob. And I would like to thank everyone listening that has, given support to our strikers out there and participate in the picket lines and various things that y'all have done. So thank you all, and hope you have a good day.
All right. Appreciate it. Again, that was the Southern Region Vice President Richard Honeycutt for the Communication Workers of America. 17,000 AT&T workers represented by CWA are now on strike across the South. And just yesterday, CWA members at AT&T in the Western region voted down their tentative agreement. So AT&T is now going to be back at the bargaining table with the CWA Western region as the Southern region is on strike. 2-1. Wow. That's a big update. So.
Yeah. I was glad to hear that spirits are high, though the community support they're receiving. Not surprised that politicians are not really jumping up and down to support our brothers and sisters on the line, but really glad to see the community support. And North Alabama Area Labor Council, I know many of our members and affiliates have been out there visiting folks. We've been getting updates regularly. I know some of my folks at Alabama Rise were visiting picket lines yesterday, and really just proud to see that. And I also want to lift up that the North Alabama DSA has raised a couple $100 already, and I believe that fundraiser is still open. I do know CWA has just now launched an official strike fund that you can donate to. I just got that email a day or two ago. So there is now an official CWA donation link if you would like to chip in a couple bucks to help these 17,000 workers that are on strike. And like I said, good job to North Alabama DSA for raising a couple $100 also here in the local community. And again, just shout out to all the people who have been visiting picket lines and dropping off waters and Gatorades and snacks, and signing the petition, sharing on social media, doing what you can just to lift up this struggle, because these 17,000 workers across the South really deserve our support and our solidarity.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.